3, 2, 1, breach. Several weeks ago, we did explosive breaching training. On this door, we built a water impulse charge that was 200 grains of explosive using 50 grain deck cord sandwiched between 2 IV bags. You can see what we did with that training. On the lock set, we had the doorknob locked. We placed the bag just below the doorknob, and basically the same damage that would occur standard construction, taking out the lock set, taking out the door frame in the area of the lock set, allowing the door to open, keeping the glass intact. The door that was originally on the house is the door we used. Steel construction with wood furring strips around the edges of the door, foam filled with a glass panel insert. The door framing was a standard strike plate along with a standard installation with the screws that were already in place. And this is what the results were of trying to gain entry into this door. We rebuilt the same charge, and we'll be doing a residential metal entry door that we hung last week using the Jamb Brace, as well as installing the Jamb Brace per the manufacturer's instructions. This is a door we'll be using. It's a standard low-grade metal residential entry door with the Jamb Brace installed. The manufacturer's instructions showed installing the Jamb Brace at the lower hinge point. We opted to install the Jamb Brace at the midpoint. At the lower point, if someone was trying to kick the door, we understand that that would help to fortify that portion of the door. But because we know we're going to be attempting an explosive charge, we placed it at the middle, which is where the bulk of the force will be on this door, in order to see what the results would be with the water impulse charge that we have built. When we installed the door, we replaced all of the hinge screws with 3.5-inch screws that go through the hinges. On the upper and lower, they go into the framing of the residence. On this middle hinge point, they go through the Jamb Brace and into the framing of the residence. On the strike side of the door, we installed the Jamb Brace between the framing of the door and the framing of the residence, of the house itself. We installed the strike plate that came with the Jamb Brace, which is connected through the strike plate, through the framing, into the Jamb Brace. For the lock set that we used the highest grade Schlage lock set that was available in our markets. And then we also installed the strike plate that came with the Jamb Brace setup and used the hardware that came with that escutcheon plate to install it. 3, 2, 1, breach. The charge worked against the door. Minimal to no frag inside the door. On the outside, we broke the trim. On the lock set side of the door, no damage on the hinge side of the door. The strike plate that was supplied with the Jamb Brace is still in place. It did crack the door framing, but the Jamb Brace itself on the inside is still in place. On the door itself, you see we buckled the door at the location of the charge. This is just residual IV bag material left from the charge. It actually pushed the door past the lock set. On the escutcheon plate is still intact. It did bend the plate up against the throw for the deadbolt. On the hinge side, we have no damage to the door. The Jamb Brace is still in place. Again, minimal to no frag inside the residence. A few little chips of wood right here in this area, but other than that, it worked as planned and was able to defeat the Jamb Brace.
3, 2, 1. Breach, breach, breach.
We did another water impulse charge. We were actually pushing rubber strips, tamping it with water. We did a 90 inches primary of 50 grain deck cord with a 6-inch strip of 50 grain deck cord at each IV water bag for a total of 375 grains, 0.092 pounds TNT equivalent. We placed those at or near the hinge points, anticipating that it would defeat the door at the weakest point where the screws from the hinges go into the door. Because we had already damaged the lock set from the prior breach, we shimmed the door closed at multiple places so that it would simulate the same as being a locked door. The results we achieved is it dropped the door in place and basically tore the screws out of the wood in the door.
3, 2, 1. Breach, breach, breach.